All right, Larry Krueger with you on KMBR's YouTube channel for Niners Nightly as we come at you on the 24th of September from 6 to 7 o'clock on KMBR's YouTube channel. Hope everybody had a fantastic Tuesday. Niners off today, so man, didn't have a chance to go down to Santa Clara, but did have a chance to didn't go to Santa Clara, but did have a chance to hit the gym. So I got a nice lift in. Listened to a little bit of Tolbert and Copeland driving back. Joined those guys a few minutes ago on their show, and now we're off and running on Niners Nightly. We got a great hour for you. JD's going to stop by later on this hour. The great John Dickinson will be in the house, and we'll talk to JD about where the Niners go from here. It's just a frustrating time of the season right now if you're a Niner fan, because you feel like you got a hell of a team, and yet you couldn't beat the Vikings in Minnesota, but then you feel better about that because now the Vikings actually look pretty good, but you couldn't beat the Rams in LA. That was supposedly the get right spot for the Niners, and they didn't get right. So now that makes the Patriot game Sunday the get right spot. But the 49ers have a myriad of problems, and it's an interesting time because everybody's goes off kind of in their own direction. It's this, it's that, it's Brock Purdy. Brock's the problem. Shanahan's the problem. Ultimately everything, you could always blame everything on Shanahan, right? Because he's the head coach. So he hired the special team coordinator. So if you don't like the special teams, you could just say, hey, Shanahan. If you don't like the defense, you could say, I don't like the defense. Sorensen. But no, Shanahan hired Sorensen. So it's on Shanahan. It's all on Shanahan. Shanahan is the whole thing. That's why Shanahan's making all the money. That's why Shanahan's the boss. That's why Shanahan's, hired his own general manager. On some, everything is directly or indirectly linked or because of Kyle Shanahan. So if you're one of these people that just hates Kyle Shanahan, you can blame everything on Kyle Shanahan. The 49ers are having injuries. Well, it's all Kyle Shanahan's practice schedule. The 49ers, weren't prepared on special teams. Shanahan, it's all about something Shanahan does. So you can always blame Shanahan. And people will, and people do, and that's fine. That's just the name of the game. But I thought Dante Whitner was really good today. Or I guess this is probably from Sunday. This is Dante Whitner on NBC Sports Bay Area with Rod Brooks and Carlos Ramirez. And he basically he's talking about the level of concern right now. And that's how kind of Carlos threw it to him. Here's Dante. We're going to react to this. We're going to play this from Whitner on the NBC Sports Bay Area postgame panel. Carlos Ramirez, Rod Brooks, Dante Whitner. Carlos asking this question to Dante.
What's your level of concern now, Dante, specifically on the defense? Because I know you dice it up, you dissect it, go through the film with a fine-tooth comb. Where's your level of concern now?
Cold red. I'm ready to hit the red button.
Ooh.
And mainly because they're not doing anything well. They're not stopping the run. They're not setting the edge. They're not getting consistent pressure on the quarterback. They're not stopping the explosive plays. They're not tackling well. They're not communicating well. They're not playing leverage. They're not doing anything well right now. And the margin for error is very slim in the National Football League. And when you're not right where you're supposed to be, you don't have the continuity on defense, it's easy for teams and quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford and of his caliber to dissect you. So they're going to have a players-only meeting this week and get back to basics and get back that championship DNA and identity and play physical within the trenches.
What's your level of concern now, Dante?
So there you go. That's a little bit of Whitner on NBC Sports Bay Area. He's blaming the whole thing defensively. I mean, he's just saying defensively, the 49ers aren't getting it done. And the Niners, when they've been good in this run, the one constant is the defense has been really good, whether it was Robert Saleh's defense, D'Amico Ryan's defense, Steve Wilkes' defense for the most part was pretty good. Now they've switched to Sorensen. Now there are people that are like, hey man, give Sorensen some time. And that sounds like a reasonable thing, but it's really not, because there is no such thing as you get time. This is the NFL. There's no time. You don't get time. Time's for other sports. You don't get time in the NFL. If you do, you had 3 preseason games. That's it. There's your time. That's your time. Otherwise, get it done. And I don't want to hear about the complaints. And Sorensen, the advantage, I mean, this is a job that was offered to Jeff Ulbrich, and Robert Saleh stepped in and said, no, you're not taking Ulbrich. It was offered to Bill Belichick. Belichick said no. No. I'm waiting to somebody, I'll sit out for a year. Somebody will give me the keys to their kingdom next year. So he didn't want to, that would have been a blow to his ego. Though I think it probably would have been, the smarter move, to be honest, joining Shanahan. But why play second banana to Shanahan? Why play second fiddle to Shanahan in any way when you can, run your own show in a year from now? And that's basically what's going to happen. Somebody's going to fall apart. They're going to hand the keys to Belichick. And it's simple as that. So they offered it Belichick the job. He didn't take it. They offered it to Ulbrich. He didn't take it. They offered it to Spags, I believe. I believe they wanted Spagnuolo. And he wasn't leaving Kansas City. So, I mean, it wasn't like Sorensen was their first choice, but the attraction of Sorensen was supposed to be, well, guess what? He's here. He knows he doesn't have to meet anybody. He doesn't have to meet the other coaches. You can keep Chris Kasarik. You can keep whatever defensive staff members you want to keep. You want to keep Daniel Bullocks? Keep Daniel Bullocks. You want to keep the entire defensive staff? Keep the entire defensive staff. That's the beauty of Sorensen. Continuity. Well, continuity implies that you're going to hit the ground running. Continuity implies that there is no ramp-up period or adjustment period. Continuity is like, hey, let's go with Sorensen so that we're better in September and we don't have a month to get used to a new coordinator and a new scheme and a new this and a new that. But look at the Niner D. Kyron Williams was absolutely doing nothing in the first 2 games of the year. 2.5 yards a carry. He almost went for 4 yards a carry. He had 89 yards rushing, and he had 27 yards receiving. He had over 100 yards on 26 touches and 3 touchdowns. So, did the Niners stop the run? Well, they stopped it okay, I guess. 3.8 a carry. They ran for under 100, 98 yards, but they didn't. I mean, Ronnie Rivers went for 4 or 5 a carry. As I said, Kyron scored 3 touchdowns. Did they stop Stafford? Well, I mean, they sacked him 3 times. He completed, 16 of 25 for 221. So he didn't rip them, but you know what? He didn't have Puka Nacua. He didn't have Cooper Kupp. And, then it's like, so you didn't stop Stafford. You didn't stop Kyron. Did you stop the verticals? No, you didn't. Tutu Atwell burned you for 50 yards. Demarcus Robinson burned you for a 32-yard catch. You gave up a 50-yard PI. You gave up another go pattern touchdown if Stafford doesn't overthrow Whittington, who burned Mooney Ward, and just ball was a little bit outthrown. Otherwise, that was a touchdown, man. Mooney Ward was toasted by Jordan Whittington, who doesn't even run that well. So the Niners right now look like a team that can't put a lot of heat on the quarterback with any consistency. They're not getting a ton. I mean, let's go to the defensive stats. I mean, the 49ers had 3 sacks, 1 from Sam Aquinu, 1 from Malik Collins, 1 from Hargrave. Bosa shut out. Leonard Floyd shut out. Robert Beal shut out. I mean, their defensive ends are not doing a whole lot. So the defensive end depth, not great. Then you just lost Javon Hargrave. So obviously that's a pass rusher inside. So your pass rush doesn't look all that great. And then Devondre Campbell is nothing compared to Dre Greenlaw. He's not even anywhere close. Devondre Campbell's a major liability against the pass. You had Dre Greenlaw. Greenlaw is one of the best run defenders in all of the NFL. The Niners last year were only good against the run because of Greenlaw and Warner. They got rid of almost all their good run defenders in the purge of the roster to go get Hargrave. How did that work? Hargrave probably is never going to play another down for the Niners. They got rid of like 5 good run defenders to add Hargrave. And then Hargrave has a totally mediocre year, plays a couple games, tears the tricep, done for the year. Probably done as a Niner. I mean, if the 49ers in this regime of Shanahan and Lynch can't get off the canvas, can't lift themselves up, and they never get closer to the Super Bowl than they've already gotten, the beginning of the end is going to be that signing of Javon Hargrave. Because look what it did. You brought in Hargrave. You had this defense that stopped the run. You wanted to be a little bit more dynamic in the interior. You wanted that interior pass rusher. I thought it was absolutely the right move at the time. It was absolutely the need. But look what had to be sacrificed to get Hargrave on the roster. Emmanuel Mosley was your best edge-setting corner in the run game. Samson Ebukam was your best edge-setting defensive end in the run game. Azeez Al-Shaair was a fantastic linebacker. Jimmy Ward was a do-everything safety, very strong in the run game, really strong in both the run and the pass game. But look at all those players. You got rid of all those players. Hassan Ridgeway, Samson Ebukam, Emmanuel Mosley, Jimmy Ward, Azeez Al-Shaair. All these guys were sacrificed so that you could get Javon Hargrave. And as soon as you got Hargrave, you were noticeably worse against the run. This Niner team, I think, has made 2 bad decisions as personnel-wise, as far as since they went to the Super Bowl the first time. And the first bad one, I mean, some people would say, it was bad getting rid of Buckner. Okay, maybe 3. So you got rid of Buckner over Armstead. Bad decision number 1. You let DJ Reed, who is absolutely crucial to your interior run defense, walk out of your building to go to Denver. That was mistake number 2. You haven't been as good against the run inside since he departed. It's years ago. And now the third one was depleting your entire depth to go for Javon Hargrave. And now here you are. You don't have Hargrave. You don't have those run defenders. And I don't know what direction they go. So you heard it there from Dante. You heard it there from Whitner. He says, code red, code red, code red. We'll go to JD. We'll take a 1-minute timeout. We're going to go to JD in a minute, and we'll get JD's thoughts on this as well. Lots of people starting to proliferate the chat with their comments. I got a bunch of things to say about Brock Purdy as well. A lot of people taking Brock Purdy to task. To me, I don't get that. I don't get that. To me, Brock Purdy is one of the bright spots. He's one of the reasons the Niners have a shot, and he's playing at a really high level. So I don't get the Brock Purdy criticism, but you know what? It's football, and there's a lot of simple people out there, and some people can't ever get beyond Shanahan and the quarterback. You see a lot of Shanahan, you see a lot of quarterback shots. You get the play, you get Brock's face. The play, Shanahan's face. The play, Brock's face. The play, Shanahan's face. And so there's an awful lot of people fascinated on the head coach and the quarterback. I'd blame Shanahan more than I'd blame Purdy at this point. That's for sure. Kevin Allen says the Purdy haters are getting desperate now. So we'll play a Richard Sherman cut in a bit as well. But this is what we'll do. We'll take a timeout. We're on the YouTube. So we're going to be here between now and 7:00. We're not on the radio tonight. Only radio show this week on Niners Nightly will be Thursday night. Thursday night, catch me from 6 to 7 on the radio. The rest of the week, we're going to be on YouTube exclusively on the KMBR YouTube channel. So hit like and subscribe. Give KMBR's YouTube a like. And this is what we'll do. I'll put this little doozy up there. Back in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Leave some more comments. Do you like that? It's very professional looking. We'll do this. We'll pretend there's a commercial break. I'll get a bowl of water, wipe some sweat from my brow, and it's Walnut Creek, the last hot day of Walnut Creek. Before it cools down, I'm hoping. It's like 94 degrees. It's September the 24th. It's like 95 out here. So it's a warm day in the creek. So we'll do this. We'll take a minute break, get some water. When we reappear, you're not just going to see this ugly mug. You're going to see JD's ugly mug. No, JD's got a very, very attractive man. He is going to join us next. The great John Dickinson will be in the house next on Niners Nightly. All right, I got my water. I got impatient. You know, it's I take my kid Kev rips me all the time too because he'll be like, "Dad, when you take these breaks on the YouTube channel on KMBR, you'll say you're gonna be gone for a couple minutes, and then you take a sip of water and you're back in like 15 seconds." Yeah, you know, here's the deal. I only have an hour. We only got an hour. We don't got time to waste, and so we bring in the great John Dickinson. John Dickinson, what's up, JD?
What's going on, Larry? Good to be with you, man. And yeah, let me tell you, I as you were talking there and I was waiting to come on, I downed a whole bottle of water, and now I'm on the can of the bubble water as well. You got to hydrate.
What's the flavor there?
Lemon. This is just a lemon LaCroix, which is one of my. But I drink all brands. I'm not brand specific when it comes to the bubble waters, but big bubble water guy.
My wife is always trying to get me on that, and I taste it, and I just can't. It just doesn't do it for me. It's now maybe the lemon is maybe the lemon's pretty good.
Yeah, it's
refreshing.
It's for me.
You need it cold. It's got to be cold.
Ice cold, and I keep multiple cases in my fridge at all times to make sure that it is the proper temperature. But yeah, this is ice cold and it's refreshing, and you make a good cocktail with this as well.
Nice.
With the different flavors, a little vodka maybe in there, a little splash of fresh lemon juice to cut it, and you get a nice early fall cocktail, Larry.
There you go. Well, nobody's going to fight a fall cocktail, especially on a day where it's 95 in the creek. All right, let's get into the Niners, the aftermath. Hargrave probably done for the year. Today we haven't mentioned the news of the day. Normally I start with the news of the day. The news of the day is that the Niners released Tracy Walker, who I guess was just there as an insurance policy on Hufanga not getting right. So Hufanga returned and the Niners released Tracy Walker. Hufanga wound up playing 56 snaps, by the way, for those who want to know. In week 3, Niners also have Malik Mustafa. They got George Odom. They have Jair Brown. So they have other safeties. And I guess, JD, I'll start with the safeties since that's the news of the day. There's a number of disappointing things about the Niners so far, but one of them is that I don't think their safeties can cover, and I don't know that they have a free safety on this team. It looks like Hufanga looks like a strong safety. The more I watch Jair Brown, I think he's a strong safety. When I watch Malik Mustafa's college film, I think, man, this guy would be really good in the box. He looks like a strong safety. George Odom, I don't think is even either. I think he's just a special teamer masquerading as a safety. He's just an athletic guy who's safety size, but they don't have a free safety. I mean, that's the number one issue. I mean, there's other issues and we'll get into them, but they don't have a free safety who can cover the deep middle in a cover 3 if you want to play zone or just play man-to-man. They really have more box safeties. They don't have that coverage player at safety. They have like the Cam Chancellor, but they just don't have the Earl Thomas.
Yeah, they have a bunch of hitters and guys that are good against the run and like to be physical, but they're being tested, I think, because of that weekly by teams. And the more they don't have success with it, the more teams are going to look at it on film and look to attack it. The thing that I've started to do here really, and you kind of got me on it even last week when we spoke before the Rams game and after the game in Minnesota, I started making a list, not necessarily of players yet, because I think it's still a little bit early to maybe get into specific players, but positions of need when you start to look at that trade deadline and what's coming up on November 5th. So we're about 6 weeks away from November 5th, 6 weeks, I guess, from today, the NFL trade deadline. And I think the 49ers are in a spot where at a few positions, they don't have an answer internally. And, maybe Dre Greenlaw, linebacker, if he can come back at some point in the back quarter or third of the season can help there. But I think when you look at the Javon Hargrave injury and you look at the way that the safeties specifically have played, I'm willing to give it a couple of weeks and see how Hufanga looks and can they scheme it up, and or maybe you have to use somebody from another position to try and help at the safety spot in terms of coverage. I'm willing to give them a couple of weeks to kind of figure it out. But I think those two positions specifically, finding a safety that can cover, and I think interior defensive line is going to have to be an area where they really look, because they were already getting handled a little bit in terms of teams running on them. I think it's really going to be an issue now without Javon Hargrave, and really without the depth that we've seen the 49ers have at the D tackle spot over the last 5 or 6 years.
I mean, there's no question. I mean, T.Y. McGill, I mean, they have Evan Anderson and they have T.Y. McGill. And Evan Anderson's a big two-gapper. He's a young kid who's got a great potential, but he's also probably, 20, 30 pounds overweight and not in the great shape that he needs to be. So I get the feeling when I look at Evan Anderson, he is a year-long practice squad. He's not coming off the practice
He's a
squad.
Project. It might be a pretty good player in a year or two, but he's a project. He's a project.
He's a good project, but he's a project. T.Y. McGill is the guy that you're going to go to now, and they will go to T.Y. McGill right now. I guess the question is, I went last night and went through other teams' practice squads just to see what's out there as far as what is the inventory of defensive tackles that's available if the Niners wanted to get super aggressive and pluck some defensive tackle off of another team's practice squad. Here are the 6 names, and I've heard of these names, but I don't even care if you're the hardest of hardcore football fan. A lot of these names nobody's heard of. Okay, Houston, Marcus Harris. He played at Auburn this last year. Kansas transfer, kind of an undersized guy, 6'2", 290. Kansas City on their practice squad, they've got a Florida State kid named Fabian Lovett, who's like 315 pounds. He's a Mississippi State transfer, high football character guy, long arms, but he doesn't have a lot of production. The Raiders, the Vegas Raiders, have Matthew Butler, who had a sack, I think, against the Niners in the preseason. Of all the guys, he might be the most veteran of these guys. The Eagles have Gabe Hall, who played at Baylor, who's kind of a freaky athlete. 6'6", 295. I mean, he's really, really tall. He's almost like a defensive end. Then there's Zion Logue, I believe, who played for Georgia. He's on Atlanta's practice squad. And was he going to want to leave Atlanta? I mean, he just played at Georgia, and now he's on Atlanta's practice squad. He's probably very comfortable in that part of the country. And then the Chargers have a guy that they got off of the international player pathway from NFL Africa. And I didn't even know the NFL Africa had a camp, but I guess they did. And this kid was the MVP of it in 2022. His name's CJ Okoye. And he's super raw defensive tackle, but he's 6'6", 315, and strong and fast. He looked pretty good in the preseason. He had a sack. But, I mean, he's just super raw. I mean, we're talking about, ridiculously raw.
We're talking about the Evan Andersons of other organizations.
Right. Like, if you want to go that raw, you could go with Evan Anderson, who at least has been practicing with you and knows your defense. So there's that. Then there's people have suggested DJ Jones, who's in Denver. I don't know if Denver's in a mood to move him. I don't know what the solution is, but what do you think, JD? I guess how big of a loss is Hargrave, considering, obviously they paid him a lot. They expected him to be a major foundation piece, but he wasn't necessarily giving them tons, but he did make a sack this week and had 3 tackles. How big of a loss is it to lose Javon?
I think it is a major loss, because as much as at times he's been considered to be a disappointment, he still, I think, is significantly more talented than anybody they have behind him. And you need that depth. I mean, so I think they were really more dependent on him having a better year than they had last year. I kind of like the DJ Jones, and that was one that I was going to bring up. And then you mentioned him. I mean, he was the guy that they let get away, and we'll see what let's see where Denver is in 3 or 4 weeks, as far as if they're really in the race or looking to maybe, move off of somebody. But he would be somebody that would fit real nicely. So yeah, I thought the Niners already were pretty thin at the interior defensive tackle, even with Hargrave kind of being up and down. And so you take him away, and I think it's a major problem. It's just the big thing for me that stands out among the Niners defense, and we touched on it a little bit the other night on the Krueger show. There's just too many areas where opposing offensive coordinators can attack, and really on all 3 levels. But I look at the interior of the offensive line, and I think teams already felt they could run on the 49ers up the gut. And I really think that they believe that that's an opportunity now to make some hay. You run on the inside, try to play smash mouth, go play action, and hit a deep ball against the safeties, or try to use a speed wide receiver on the outside to get by Charvarius Ward, who didn't have the best game against some of the Rams' littler speed guys that they have out there. So I think it's pretty major to bring it back to Hargrave. And it's major for a team that I think already was hoping that he was going to be better than he had been a year ago.
JD's in the house. It's Niners Nightly. Hope you guys are enjoying Niners Nightly. We have a different Niner angle. We try to go a different Niner angle every night, either with guests or topics and that kind of thing. And JD is kind enough to stop by. He doesn't work hard enough doing what he's doing, but I asked him, since we're buddies, to stop by, and I think his Niner content is outstanding. Maybe once a week on Niners Nightly, and he's been kind enough to oblige, and so he's with us tonight. We're really thrilled to have him. JD, it's interesting. It's like the defense. Okay, so special teams is 30th. We'll get to that in a second. DVOA. Offense is 7 DVOA. And the reason I'm using DVOA is because it adjusts for the opponent quality, which in the first month of the year, I think it's a better stat than EPA because of that, right? Because you only play the teams you play, and so this kind of accounts for who you play. So the Niners right now, DVOA-wise, 7th on offense, 19th on defense, 30th on special teams. We'll get to special teams. Shanahan already has called out the special teams coach, Brian Schneider. We're not even get to the first month of the season, and the special teams coach is already on the firing squad, it sounds like. But let's talk about the defense for a second, a little bit more detail. If I say to you, or let's just say, coming up, next guest is Nick Sorensen. And so now we got Sorensen in here with us. What's the primary question to him? Is it, who is the free safety? Is it, do you have a free safety? Is it, where the hell's Leonard Floyd been the last 2 weeks? Is it, what are you going to do without Javon Hargrave? Is your secondary have enough speed to compete? Is it Devondre Campbell? Are you going to have to bench him for Curtis Robinson? Is it, hey, Nick, what the heck is Isaac Yiadom doing playing over Renardo Green? Bench Yiadom for Green. I mean, where would we start our conversation if Nick were here? I mean, what question do you have for him?
I think right now it would still be Javon Hargrave above all of those other things, just because it's the most recent. And I do think it's the most pressing. Like, I think he is, of all the players you mentioned who are struggling, he is the best player. He is the best player that the 49ers now know they do not have. So I would start there. But to your point, I mean, there are questions everywhere surrounding this team defensively right now at the safeties. Yeah, I mean, teams are attacking Devondre Campbell. Teams are attacking Yiadom. And yeah, I think we're at a point early where the questions are starting to be, are you going to look to make some changes, some personnel changes? Is Devondre Campbell not going to be playing as much as he's been playing? Is Yiadom not going to be playing as much as he's been playing? Who is that next man up going to be in terms of the interior defensive line? So no, I think you're pretty much on point with all of that.
I think my collective question just would be, and I know it would be viewed as argumentative, but it's one that I'm considering going with later this week, which is right now, Nick, are all your best players on the field? Forget the hurt guys, but just of the options that you have, are you playing your best guys at every spot? because I don't think he is.
Well, the
I
thing
think
that
he's playing Campbell because they signed Campbell. I think they played Oliver last year because they signed Oliver. You know what I mean? It's like the rest of us saw that Oliver wasn't any good, except everybody saw it except for them, you know? And it's like, you know, you played Oliver, you cut Deshaun Jameson. Then you wind up cutting Oliver and benching Oliver. You never should have cut Jameson. Now you're sitting Robinson, who clearly outplayed Devondre Campbell. You cut Jalen Graham. Jalen Graham's clearly better than Devondre Campbell. Faster, younger, I think better, more of a future. I don't get it. The Niners seem like there's other things besides who's best that go into the equation as far as who plays.
Well, you have your initial plan, and they signed Devondre Campbell because they thought he could be a stopgap for Dre Greenlaw, and that was the initial plan. Now, I understand, like, to me, there was nothing that I would have seen in camp to where you would say, okay, Devondre Campbell's not going to get the first shot. All right. But now the question is, it's not working out. Do you need to go in a different direction? And who are the, like, they weren't, it didn't come down to, it was never an open competition of, you know, did D Winters have a better camp than Devondre Campbell? Or did Jalen Graham have a better camp than so-and-so? Or did Curtis Robinson, who I thought played pretty well, you know, was he better? It wasn't about that. It was, you have Fred Warner, and you have Flanagan Fowles, incumbents, and you have Devondre Campbell, who's going to take up that other spot, and that's going to be the guys at the start. So when do you make the switch? I think we're at a point right now where it's fair to ask the question, is it time to make a switch at that particular spot? I think when you look at, you know, Yadam, I thought had a pretty good camp. I thought he had a pretty good camp. There's a difference between a guy having a good camp and what the rest of the league views him as. And I think we've seen that the first couple of weeks because it's been 3 weeks in a row. And I think part of it is the reputation of Mooney Ward. And I think part of it's the reputation of now Diamador Lenore, who are two, you know, elite corners, I think, although Ward struggled against the Rams. So where are you going to attack? Well, you're going to go after that third guy. When you're going to get that third guy on the field, and you're going to go after that third guy. So Yadam, I think, is at a point where teams have gone after him and he struggled. And so now you got to look at, you know, is Renardo Green a better option there? I think if they felt Renardo Green was a better option coming into the year, I think Renardo Green would have been playing. But Yadam played better in the preseason and in camp than he has by a lot in the first 3 games of the year. But teams are, the opposition is telling you, I think, the answer to a lot of these questions. So those are the 2 spots where I would say it's fair to raise, should there be somebody else on the field when they play the Patriots on Sunday?
If it was me, I would start Renardo Green and bench Yadam. I would activate, no doubt in my mind, I'm activating Darrell Luter Jr. because he can cover, and Rock Ya-Sin. Those guys have to be activated on game day. I need as many guys that can cover as possible. And if that means I can't have, you know, Malik Mustafa right now, then I can't have Malik Mustafa right now. But I'm getting
he's been disappointing, I think, to this point. Like,
I don't even know that he's played that much. I couldn't really even tell you how many snaps he's played. It's not a lot.
Against the Vikings, it was some, and then he had the miscue on the punt return as well.
Right. He missed the tackle. That's right. He missed the tackle on Xavier Smith.
Yep.
He wears number 6 now. You're right. I'm picturing 43 or whatever he was in camp.
I know that caught me in Minnesota from behind. I'm like, who's 6? And I kind of did a double take when he initially got subbed in for Odom in Minnesota. I had to look down at the card. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Mustafa's 6.
So I'm going with Green over Yadam. I'm going with Luter active over Mustafa. I'm going with Curtis Robinson over Devondre Campbell. And I'm starting Jordan Elliott for Javon Hargrave. And I'm promoting T.Y. McGill from the practice squad. What do you think? I mean, would you go with Givens or McGill or Elliott inside next to Collins? I mean, I don't know that anybody has looked great, but I think Elliott's got the most size and strength and ability.
I'd go with Elliott, but you need everybody. But no, I would go with Elliott for Hargrave. And yeah, I think McGill is the guy who gets bumped up. And I think, you roll with that, and Givens is going to be in the mix there as well. So no, I think you're spot on there. Now with Renardo Green, are you playing, how are you doing that? Are you playing Renardo Green on the outside and then kicking Lenore inside? Because they've been going with Lenore and Ward in the base, and then kicking Lenore inside at that point.
I like Lenore as a tackler more. I mean, if Renardo was a bigger, more physical guy, maybe I'd have him play the slot and let Lenore play outside. But I think Renardo can play outside. I'd put Renardo outside and I'd let Lenore play inside, because Lenore, I mean, that's the other thing. You can't take Lenore out of the box. I mean, you've already done enough to hurt your run defense. You got to figure out ways to get your best run defenders on the field. And Lenore is a very, very good run defender. But my big one is Campbell. Campbell's, D. Winters took over for Campbell in the second quarter. Eric Branch asked Shanahan on Monday, was this because you were not happy with Campbell? And of course, Shanahan was like, no, of course not. And of course, the answer is, of course, that's why Winters was in there, because he wasn't happy with Campbell. You think coaches just voluntarily take guys who they like the way they're playing off? He's playing great, but let's take a look at Winters. What the hell? No.
But the other thing they have been doing that a little bit. Like
they have been flashing Winters. They're trying to get Winters on the field.
Yeah, they make plan, and they did it with Malik Mustafa too. It wasn't, hey, Odom's got to get off the field. Like it sounded like they planned on, in the Vikings game, Malik Mustafa was going to get a couple of series. Like they plan these like rotations to get to split time sometimes at different positions. They did it at right guard last year. If you remember, they were getting Feliciano some snaps for Burford. Like they do.
The Niners have juggled where other teams don't.
Yeah, they do try to get almost like a basketball lineup, right? Like, hey, we're going to give this guy a 6-minute run, and then we're going to take him out, and then we're going to play this other guy for a minute, and then maybe we'll go back to the first guy. Like, they do that more than other teams do.
Shanahan's going to Ty Jerome, and if everything works out well, maybe Anthony Lamb. Campbell, though, has allowed 14 catches for 149 yards and a touchdown on only 16 targets. He's only been targeted 16 times in 3 games. He's allowed 14 catches. So he just can't cover. I mean, he just cannot cover, and they have to get him off the field. And I know it sounds like I'm picking on him, but I'm really not. I just have noticed that it's just he's not that guy. And I'm looking at some of the Niners' defensive numbers, JD. Points allowed per game, 23rd. They have allowed 23, 21st in the NFL. Defensive efficiency, 25th in the NFL. Yeah. Defensive EPA, 24th. Yards per rush allowed, 4.5, which is 21st. Yards per play, 6.1, which is 30th. Third down conversion rate of almost 53%, 52.9. That is 30th.
Yeah.
Success rate versus the run, 51.6. That's 28th. I mean, if I'm Nick Sorensen,
matches the eye test. I'll tell you that. All those numbers to me match the eye test.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's exactly what we're saying. Exactly what we're saying. Okay, now let's jump to the special teams real quick. They're 30th. Shanahan is already, from the podium, called out Brian Schneider. He basically said, hey, man, my theory of special teams is I don't care if it wins us the game. We just can't lose the game because of it. And now we are losing the game because of it. Is Schneider going to make it to the bye week?
At this rate, maybe not. I mean, it's got to get
gambling.
Better.
What would you bet? Would you bet on yes, he makes it, or no, he doesn't make it?
Right now, I would
nine.
Right now, I would bet no. Right now, I would bet no. He doesn't make it. And look, I mean, it's just been something different every week. It's kickoff one week, it's punt the next week, it's fake punt, it's blocked punt. Like it's been like you think about every kind of thing that can go wrong in terms of special teams, and they've hit every single one of them. Punt coverage, kick coverage, punt blocked, missed field goal, fake punt goes against them, flips the momentum completely of the game. I mean, you talk about all the different phases of special teams, and they've had a major breakdown in every single one of them, really, with the exception of maybe Moody's been pretty good. I mean, I don't really put missing a 55-yarder as it being a huge deal, and that's his only miss. But if he makes the kick, they win the game. He didn't make the kick and they lost the game. So, and he had a shorter one earlier that didn't exactly look great that he eked in there. So he tends to be, I think, a little bit streaky with his mechanics. Like sometimes he'll have some bad makes, so to speak. But no, it's a bad situation right now. And look, Schneider came over from Seattle, and Seattle, Seattle's one of the teams with Schneider there that had burned the Niners a little bit at times with some special teams chicanery of their own. So no, he's on the hot seat. And look, I mean, Kyle does not want to be taking questions about bad special teams play. He wants to call plays. He wants to worry about the clock management and the offensive and defensive complementary football, and not be standing up there thinking that 2 or 3 special teams plays turned a win into a loss. And I think he had to do that in part on Sunday. And, that is something that I think it makes him bristle. And I think it puts him in a spot where he would look to make a change.
Unbelievable stuff. 2 last quick ones before we let you go, JD, and we really appreciate you stopping by, man. Love wrapping football with you, whether it be on the Krueger show after the game, whether it be, on the sideline at practice, whether it be in the press box. Me and you, we can talk ball. Warrior ball, Giant ball, Niner ball. I mean, seriously, you're very easy to have as a guest, and you're fantastic at KMBR. Everybody follow JD on social media. He's a great follow. I'm telling you nothing that you don't already know. All right, CMC is in Germany getting specialist opinions on his Achilles tendon. JD, does this mean that there's a chance CMC is done for the year? And how serious is the CMC thing in your? I mean, I realize I'm asking you to guess because you're not in Germany. You're not his agent. You don't know. But based on what you're hearing, what do you think of that?
I mean, the fact that he's there tells you how serious it is. I mean, I do think him not playing this year is on the table. I think he's trying to prevent that. But here's the other thing too with the Achilles, and I don't want to be, I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to be, prognosticating too much on the negative side of things. But there's also, he could go through the treatments that he's going through in the second opinion, and things that maybe he's haven't done with the Achilles now to try and get it right. He could have it not get right, shut down for the season, come back next year and have the problem pop right back up again. And maybe he ruptures the Achilles next year and it winds up being or he could come back at some point in November or December, even for the stretch run, feels really good, does a treatment and puts himself in a position and then have the thing rupture then, or have the tendonitis come back to a point where he doesn't feel he can be effective and then have to shut it down then. So I think he's trying to do everything he can to get himself back on the field, but I think it's not just about getting himself back on the field. It's about getting himself through the season without having the catastrophic issue, which obviously would be the rupture and, that 9 to 12 month recovery. I mean, I don't want to be the sky is falling doom and gloom, but I do think we have to grasp the notion of what if he comes back and then it ruptures in November or December? I mean, then you're talking about 2 seasons potentially being affected, not just 1.
And is there anything can you have a surgery that goes in there and preventative that prevents the rupture? It almost feels like, it's like if it's going to rupture, you might as well just get out there. And because if it ruptures, then you got to have the surgery and then you're going to have all the rehab. And then, so it's like, I almost feel like, are we putting off the inevitable? Okay. Last one for you. Through 3 games, I'm looking at the O-line numbers. And it really does show that my buddy Colton McKivitz, who I really think the world of, I love talking to Colton, that he's the number one problem. Trent Williams is his pass block win rate is 97.6. That's first among tackles. Aaron Banks, 95.1%. That's 9th among guards. Pooney at right guard, 94.1%. That's 18th among guards. Brendel at center is 95.5%. That's 10th among centers. And then we get to Colton. He's 81.6%. That's 53rd among NFL tackles. There's 32 teams in the league. That means there's 64 starting tackles. That means he's 53rd out of 64. That's not good. So what do you think? Is it, I mean, did they have a move to make? I mean, they have no move, right? They just have to roll with Colton the whole time. They just got to coach him up or help him out. There's nobody. They can't go with Jalen Moore or anybody else, right? They can't.
No, it's Colton. And I think they feel like, all right, if you have one, let's say, weak link among the five, you're probably doing better than a lot of teams in the NFL collectively, independent of his rank. And I think, there are ways that Shanahan can scheme around it. And look, they've won a lot of football games with Colton McKivitz, and before that, McGlinchey, who didn't always have the best numbers either in a lot of these same ratings. So I think it's a position where you can survive as long as it doesn't wreck the game. And I don't feel through 3 games like McKivitz has really wrecked a game, but he's been so bad that it's lost them a game. I think they've been functional enough. I know you're going to talk about Brock Purdy. Like, I think Brock Purdy, he put a lot of the questions to bed in the Rams game for me. Like, I don't think maybe he had been as good as some of the numbers in the first 2 games. I thought he was the real deal in the game against the Rams and could have had even better numbers. And I know a lot of the ancillary numbers will say that as well. Like, I thought Purdy, with the lack of weapons and him and Juwan Jennings doing what they did and having the line that he had against the Rams, I think that actually bodes really well for the Niners moving forward here if they have to continue to be shorthanded, that he's truly up to the task to, in his own way, carry the load until they get some of these other guys back. And that's independent of maybe a weakness at the left or at the right tackle spot.
As you know, as the song says, Niners have 99 problems. Purdy ain't one of them. JD, great stuff, man. Are you on tonight after the ball game?
I am on tonight after the Giants and the D-backs with Sports Phone KNBR. We'll be talking some Giants. The latest with Farhan Zaidi as he met with the media, the reporters in Arizona, discussing his future, which is unclear with 5 games to go in the season. And also going to talk some Niners as well. So taking a lot of calls and talking Niners and talking Giants tonight on KNBR. So looking forward to that.
Okay, so the Giants game starts at right now? Just started
just started about 5 minutes
ago. So we're looking at about around 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and honestly, the way games are now might be closer to 9:30, 9:40 even.
Yeah, tune in to JD. JD, awesome stuff, man. We'll let you go. Thanks for the time, and we'll I guess maybe will we see you down in Santa Clara this week?
I will be down there tomorrow, and then I'm not going to be down there Thursday this week because, believe it or not, the Warriors have their first the big Mike Dunleavy, Steve Kerr, that first day, like when Kyle and John Lynch come to the podium the day before camp starts. Well, that's basically the equivalent of that is Thursday over at Chase Center. So I'll be at the Warriors press conferences there, and then their media days on Monday. So the Warriors' first practice, Larry, is a week from today.
Wow. The road to 38 wins begins. JD, awesome stuff, man. We'll talk to you soon. There you go.
Thanks,
the
brother.
Great John Dickinson, who is awesome. JD is awesome. All right. This is what we do. We'll take our final timeout. We don't need to take any timeouts, but I'll take timeout for 1 minute. We'll come back. I got some thoughts on Purdy I want to share with you next as we continue on Niners Nightly. And like that, he's back. Okay. It was a very short pull of water. I could probably do the pull of water without going to the back in a few minutes. Stay tuned, leave some more comments. I could probably just be like, hey, guys, I'm thirsty. But I've tried to be a pro. All right, let's talk a little bit. And thanks to JD for joining us. Join him at 10 o'clock tonight on The Sports Leader after Giants baseball. I was telling Tommy and Copes that, this is the week where I kind of tape some of the Giants games because I know I'm going to miss it in about a month. And it's like right now I'm so tired of it. I can't watch any Giants games right now. It's just like, no way. But you know what? 3, 4, 5 weeks from now, when it gets into December and they start making moves and I miss baseball and I haven't seen it in a while and the World Series is over, then I will miss Giants baseball and I'll be like, I wish I had a game on tape. That's why I tape some of the games in September. So I can watch them. And since I didn't watch it to go, the first time, it's like all a surprise the second time. But I want to talk about Brock Purdy because, the Niners do have a lot of problems. But man, I don't know about you guys. I mean, it's like when you have an answer at the quarterback position, damn, that feels good. It really does. And the 49ers have an answer at the quarterback position, and his name is Brock Purdy. So this game this weekend was Brock Purdy's 7th game where he's thrown at least 3 touchdowns and no picks. And that is the most of any quarterback in the NFL going back to 2022. So Brock's been really, really good. His first game with no Debo, no Kittle, no CMC. I mean, look at the numbers. 3.64 was the average time to throw. 3.64. Only 22% of the passing yards came after the catch. So there wasn't any yak. And that's part of the Niner receivers aren't getting separation. You get no yak when you catch the ball and the defender's sitting right there. 328 air yards for Brock. That's the second highest mark of his NFL career. And then you mix in 4 drops. I think PFF first said 6. Now they're saying 4. Either way, you take away the drops, and this cat completed 87% of his passes with no Debo, with no Kittle, with no CMC. I mean, think about that. With a special teams that's a mess, with a defense that's nothing close to what it was. Brock Purdy stepped up, and everybody was like, this is it. This is the statement game for Brock. All right. So all those people who last week were saying this is the statement game, all right. He threw for almost 300 yards. He threw for 3 touchdowns. He threw no picks. He ran, whatever number of times. He ran for 41 yards. The guy's a good quarterback. He may even be better than a good quarterback. He may be an outstanding quarterback. Richard Sherman thinks he's elite. Richard Sherman thinks he's top 5. So, Dick Sherman knows more about it than we do. That's for sure. I'm going to share the screen and let you listen to a little bit of Dick Sherman right here. Here he is on the Coach Yak put this out on Twitter. Here's Sherm. Sherm knows his stuff, man. And listen to what he had to say about Purdy here and tell me what you think. Here's Richard Sherman.
I thought this was a statement game for Brock Purdy because they say he can't do it without his weapons. He can't. What is he going to do when Kittle's out? What is he going to do when Debo's out? What is he going to do if Christian McCaffrey? Well, all 3 of them were out. He threw for almost 300, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. He ran the ball 41 yards. He's a good quarterback. He's an elite quarterback. I'd say he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League. And if you give him the same criticism, then please give it to Joe Burrow. Please give it to every quarterback that you think is elite that has not played that way, because he's playing that way and you don't want to give him credit. Don't tell me T. Higgins is hurt and that's why Joe Burrow is playing the way he did, because that's asinine. That's hypocritical, because you're saying, so now he needs T. Higgins to be able to reach his potential. So he's not alone special. He's only special if he has T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and all these weapons and Joe Mixon, or is he special in his own right? He's a heck of a quarterback, but he does need help. And I'm trying to get people to understand, you got guys playing some really good football right now that will never get credit because of what you think of them or what the past. Geno Smith played a really good game, has played, with the 2 interceptions, that'll take away from his performance. But Sam Darnold was forgotten about, left for dead, not relevant, and playing elite football. So if you talked about the top quarterbacks in the National Football League right now, it's not necessarily the highest paid guys. It's not. And if you talk about this list and you don't mention Brock Purdy, then you're a hater. Then you're just a hater. You're just a guy who doesn't like low round picks, overachieving and playing above what you expect them to do. And you want to continue to go with things that are the way they're projected. Hey, this guy was a 1st-round pick. This guy I think should be good, so I'm going to say he's good. And I'm not expecting this guy to be good. So even if he's playing good, I'm not going to give him that kind of credit. I thought this was
So there you go. That's a little bit of Richard Sherman, and he's right. Of course he's right. Come on. Nobody's banging on Joe Burrow. Nobody's banging on Herbert. Why? Because those guys are taller? Because you think that they're better? Here we go. Purdy's not elite. He's like 18-6 or something like that. He's pretty good. Guy's been pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not saying he's the best, but pretty good. Pretty good. I think it's just, let's just say this. The Niners have problems right now. I don't know what they are defensively. I don't know if Sorensen's a good coordinator. I don't know if they have enough pass rush. I don't know if they have enough defensive line. I don't know if that Campbell's good enough at linebacker to win a championship with. They got a lot of good young DBs, but if you have no rush up front, those guys are going to get absolutely burnt on the back end. They can't stop the verticals. Teams are going up top like for fun, and they've had success. So guess what? New England's going up top. New England has nothing. They're going up top. I guarantee you, because the Niners haven't proved that they can defend it. Special teams is a joke. The coordinator could get dumped before the bye week, but it all is on Brock. It's Brock. There's no CMC. He may not play anymore this year. He's in Germany doing platelet-rich injections or whatever, trying to get right. And Brock's out there running for his life. Now he's got, probably a herniated disc or something due to the MRI in the back. I'm sure his back is not feeling good after running for his life, taking a bunch of hits. He ran 10 times for 41 yards. So he ran effectively. He's running for his life. He's making plays. I mean, my goodness, the way this guy ran around and made play after play after play. I mean, there's good news and bad news with the Niners. The bad news is the defense doesn't. Maranta says, Larry, are you in a sauna? No, I'm not in a sauna. It's just wood paneling. Wood paneling. Wood paneling. Not a sauna. Wood paneling. Harry says, Harry Balzac. Oh, Harry. Hey, Harry Balzac. Larry, the women of Germany love you and watch you every night. Thank you. Invader says, I wouldn't expect him to play with a herniated disc. I'm not saying he has a herniated disc. I'm saying that usually when you have back problems, you might have a herniated disc. And if he's getting an MRI in his back, obviously he's having some pain. Then that leads to the question is, what if Brock can't go? Who do you go with? You go with Brandon Allen? Can you win with Brandon Allen? Do you go with Dobbs? Can you win with Dobbs? Do you go with Mordecai? Can you win with Mordecai? If Brock was out for any period of time, let's say he was out for 6 or 7 or 8 weeks, obviously knock on wood, hopefully that's not the case. We got people saying the MRI was negative, but he's having back pain. So I had back surgery. I mean, I know what back pain is very debilitating. So, I mean, probably he's either got some herniated disc or some partial herniated disc or some terrible bruise or some contusion of some kind. But we don't know. And if he was going to miss any period of time, let's say 5 weeks, 6 weeks, should the Niners go with Brandon Allen or Dobbs or Mordecai or trade for Mac Jones or trade for a veteran that you think you could win with? That will be interesting to watch. But I think the good news is the Niners have their quarterback, and he proved that he can compete and give them a chance to win, even without a lot of the Avengers, as many people call them, on the team. But now you got questions. Is your special teams championship caliber? Is your defense championship caliber? And then I would say you got a lot of young DBs. So you probably need to trade for some pass rush. You probably need to add a defensive tackle to your practice squad, but you probably also need to add some more pass rush. Robert Beal's not doing it. Leonard Floyd looked good in week 1. He has not looked good since. He's just not non-factor. Bosa doesn't look the same as he did in his 18.5 sack season a couple years ago. Their D-line doesn't look scary right now. And now you just lost Hargrave. So you gotta see what you can do defensively to get a more representative effort. You have to get a W on Sunday against New England, any way, shape, or form that it comes. It doesn't matter what it looks like, just that you get the W. You have to get the W. But then Arizona's sitting there, and you got Kyler, and if you can't put heat on the quarterback, and he's got Marvin Harrison's kid, good luck. Good luck. So suddenly the season looks a lot more daunting. Brock looks pretty good. The weapons are getting hurt. And the 49ers are 1-2. it's good news that Brock looks good, but the defense and the special teams may not be along for the ride this year. And their Super Bowl hopes may get undone by Sorensen's defense and Schneider's special teams. And somehow, some way, we'll find a way to blame it all on Brock. All right, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for us. We went from not a single person in the room when we started to almost over 300 people in the room when we finished. So good hour. Thanks to you guys. Oh, we got this one from G. San. He says, Krug, do you know if Terrace Marshall Jr. finally will have the call? I mean, I didn't ask JD this question. It was the only one I didn't put to him. But Ronnie Bell, come on, man. It's over. It's over. There's no upside there with Ronnie Bell. He's got good ball skills. He doesn't run fast. At best, he's a redundant part. They need to have a complementary part. And they need more speed. You know, part of the reason that they're putting the Niners are running against 8-man boxes more than any other team in pro football through 3 weeks is that teams are not afraid of the Niner weapons. Their weapons are not scary. Now, other people have said, oh, it's Brock. It's Brock. It's not Brock. It's the total lack of speed at wide receiver. If nobody fears you running past them, then they can be in kind of a forward position. When you have a team that you're going up against that has speed, you're kind of in that 50-50, or you're in the bail. You're turning and you're running. It makes all the difference in the world as far as underneath coverage and defending the run. If you have DBs that are all forward because you don't have anybody that makes them turn, advantage defense. That's where the Niners are at. They have no speed. It's a slow team. So they have no speed on the perimeter. They have no speed on the back end. That's why they keep getting verticals over the top of their head. That's why Renardo Green needs to be on the field over Isaac Yiadom. Renardo Green's faster. That's why Luter's got to be out there. He's younger. He's faster. Okay. That's why those guys have to be active and utilized. Offensively, the Niners need more speed. That can come from one of two sources. Jacob Cowing, 4.38. If you don't trust Jacob Cowing, that's fine. He's young. You don't think he's ready, Kyle? Fine. Go with Terrace Marshall. Terrace Marshall ran 4.37 coming out. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of LaBassiere City, Louisiana. He, not Chase, not Jefferson, was supposed to be the man in Baton Rouge. Terrace Marshall I talked to him a couple times. He's in great shape. He's happy to be here. He knows the offense. He's just waiting for his opportunity. And it's coming because he's big and he's fast and he can catch. And I've watched these guys in practice. Terrace Marshall looks every bit as good or better than Ronnie Bell at practice. I know what I'm watching. I think we'll see him. And I hate that for Ronnie Bell because I love Ronnie Bell. But Ronnie Bell's a redundant part. Ronnie Bell's a great route runner with good hands. But those hands have regressed this year. He's dropped more balls in this camp than he ever has. The ball that he dropped on Sunday, he caught that ball every single time last year. So now he's dropping that ball. And if you don't run fast and you're not big and you drop the ball, it's bye-bye time. That's where Ronnie Bell's at. I don't know if they'll pull the plug tomorrow or if they'll wait a week so it's not so dramatic, whatever. But it's bye-bye Ronnie Bell, hello Terrace Marshall, or hello Jacob Cowing. And if it's not, I think we need an explanation because the 49ers are molasses slow at wide receiver. Nobody is fearing the Niner receivers. They have no Tutu Atwell. They have nobody running by. So that's got to change. They need speed on the perimeter on the offensive side and the defensive side. And right now they have neither. And it shows. They're getting verticals up top and they can't make big plays down the field. And they're not getting the separation at wide receiver. And somebody's like, separation's overrated. No, it's not. Separation is otherwise you're throwing 50-50 balls, and if you throw enough 50-50 balls, some of them become picks. So there you go. All right. We went a little overtime tonight. That does it for our hour and 5 minutes. And have a great night. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. Later on tonight, I'm going to go live on the Krueger Show on YouTube with Raj from RSF 49ers. And I believe the great Raj is going to be in the house. We'll see. I haven't heard back from Raj. Oh, wait a second. Raj has just gotten back. 8:30. So we're going to go live at 8:30 on the Krueger Show. with Raj from RSF 49ers. We'll talk more Niners at 8:30. Join me then. Until then, I'm going to get a glass of water, towel off, try to cool down, maybe watch a little Giants baseball. We'll see you at 8:30. And thanks for supporting Niners Nightly. And it should be a great week. Thursday night on the radio side, my good friend Andy Gresh from CBS Sports Radio. You know him in Boston from EEI. He's absolutely awesome on the Patriots. He'll join me on the radio Thursday night at 6:30. So listen for that as well. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Niners Nightly.